Good evening, everybody. My name's Todd Stern, and welcome to Credit Talk. Tonight, we are very fortunate. We have our very special guest, Christine Farah from Gold Coast Exclusives, and she is an expert realtor, and we're going to talk a little bit tonight about purchasing homes, what you need to purchase homes, and how to do it. So first, let me get into a little bit of your bio about you, and I put my glasses on.
Okay.
So, Christine, you've been in the business now 10 years?
10, 15 years.
10, 15 years.
Yes.
I know that one thing that I know about you, and which I've seen on TV, is that you were featured on HGTV and their show House Hunters,
Yes,
helping some
very
people
fun. Yes.
buy a house and everything like that.
Well, we're also now on Comcast, so every year we assess our marketing programs and try to find the best fit for our buyers, sellers, and consumers. So look for that too.
Excellent. Also, I want to tell everybody out there, this is a live call-in show, so please give us a call at 312-738-1060 if you have any questions regarding real estate or credit. And you know, probably people have seen the show before. That's what we talk about, is what to do when you have credit issues. So, Christine, let's go a little bit. I've got a couple questions for you,
Okay.
and we can talk about it. So, you know, biggest thing, how can I buy this? Number one thing that people want to do is buy a home. There's pride in buying a home, being a homeowner, and having your own house versus renting. So tell me a little bit. Got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Tell me, what do you see when people begin their home search?
Well, two things. Maybe you should ask me what I would like to see when they begin
Okay.
their home search. But what we're seeing is they first begin online, then they go out and tour. Let's see a beautiful sign, walk in, make an offer, and hope they get the home. What we would like to see that would avoid complications and problems is preparing ahead of time. If you make an offer without being pre-approved, you could run into some major issues, delay your closing, and potentially even lose your dream home, which is the most important thing. So there are certain processes that we would like to see started from the beginning.
And which I've seen a lot of people who call their help center that are looking for homes as well. You know, they'll tell me, first of all, that, oh, I'm driving around looking at signs and these people don't call me back. And, you know, is that a good thing to do, to be calling these realtors on your own if you are a potential home buyer?
Well, I think you should get all your ducks lined up in a row. The one thing you should understand is that when you're calling a sign, you're calling the listing broker, the person that's marketing the property. That broker, their primary fiduciary responsibility is going to be to the seller getting the highest and best price for the home. So you may not be getting the best deal that you think you're getting by working with just one realtor. What you should do is work with your own realtor and take a look at multiple homes at the same time so that you can get a correct market analysis, find out if it's the correct price, how long it's been in the market, if there are any issues. There are many questions that buyers don't realize they could be asking in the home buying process that can save them a lot of headache in the future.
I agree with you 100% there. Next question for you. Here, what are three pieces of advice do you give to home buyers out there?
Well, the first thing I would do is get yourself pre-approved for a mortgage. As I said a few minutes ago, many people have lost their homes because they did not have all the ducks lined up in a row. When you get yourself pre-approved, you find out exactly the exact price range you can search for, exactly what you can afford. Doesn't mean you need to spend that much, but at least you know in your head what you can do. You can enter into a real estate contract comfortably and aggressively. Many times a pre-approval is just as strong as a full cash offer. So in this case, a seller would be more likely to take an offer that comes with a pre-approval versus one that does not. And you can easily ask your local realtor who they prefer to work with, or for a list of recommendations of past mortgage brokers that have gotten wonderful reviews.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had people call us at the center too. We tell them the same thing. First thing you want to do is get pre-approved, because you want that pre-approval letter. Because I'll say to the potential person that's looking for the house, you know, so how much of a home are you looking to buy? They'll tell me, oh, they want to spend $500,000. We'll tell them to call a certain mortgage broker, and then they find out they're only approved up to $350,000.
Right.
And what happens, I tell them all the time, you go look at a $500,000 house, which is a great house. Now you're going to go look at one for $300,000, which still could be a very nice house. But listen, obviously, a $500,000 house is going to have a couple more bells and whistles.
Oh, of course.
So get pre-approved. And then, you know, as I've talked to everybody before, credit. Because if you got credit issues, you're not going to get that mortgage, and you want to know ahead of time. And
Or you may end up paying a higher rate, and also delaying your closing.
yes. And what else piece of advice would you give to a potential new home buyer?
Well, the one thing that most people don't realize, because it's been a while that we've had such wonderful low interest rates, these are historically low. If you go back
Yes.
and maybe ask your parents what interest rate they paid when they were buying their home, you would be shocked. So the interest rate directly affects, obviously, the monthly mortgage payment. We're at rates that are in the threes, 3.5, 3.7. That basically amounts to $350 per 100,000 that's loaned. So if that rate was to go up to 4%, 5%, that makes a huge difference in buying power. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in buying power. So I would say jump in, get yourself locked in, get yourself pre-approved, because we don't know how long we're going to be able to take advantage of these wonderful mortgage rates. You know, there's always a rumor mill that the Federal Reserve is going to raise rates, and it could be sooner rather than later.
And with the election coming up, and I agree with you 100%, rates are super low. I mean, maybe, 50, I don't age myself, but about 15 years ago when I purchased a home, good credit, good down payment, and I was at 7.5%.
That was the norm then. I mean, so basically 3.5, 3.75 is almost free money. You should definitely take
I
advantage of it.
agree with you 100%. So that's real important. What else can you tell our potential home buyers? Is there anything else you want to tell them what to look for?
Well, to step back a little bit in terms of the pre-approval, I would say pull your credit, find out what your credit score is. And the one thing you should never do when you're in the process of buying a home is buying a car, buying lots of clothes, going on expensive vacations. All of these can affect your credit score and bring you down at the 11th hour, causing either delay in closing or causing you to lose your pre-approval or your mortgage. So those are some very important things to know. A, don't have any surprises. Pull the credit and then call the number back here to find out what you can do about it. If there are any issues, these things can be taken care of. And number two, make sure that your, as we say, sort of your loan to
debt
ratio is
it's whatever their numbers are.
I want to say I kind of want to say that you should have about 1/3 of your total credit limit stay below that to maintain an A+ credit rating. If you have one credit card and you're maxing it out, you're going to have a lower credit rating than
Yes.
having 4 credit cards and spending $10 on each one. So that's something to keep in mind and a quick way to boost your credit
And
rating.
we've mentioned before, 30% is the limit. I tell people all the time, you want to be below 30% of your credit limit. So let's, Christine, we have a caller on the line. Let's go to that caller. Hello, caller.
Thank you for taking my call. I'm thinking of buying a house, but I also need a car, and I'm wondering if I buy a car, will it affect the loan I get if
Absolutely.
I try to buy a house as well?
Absolutely. I suggest that you buy the larger purchase, which is the home first. Once you have that secured, then you can look into buying or leasing a car. But definitely do not make a large purchase prior to getting pre-approved for a mortgage.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much for calling. That's exactly, we see that at the center all the time where we help individuals put them on the right path. They get their credit straightened out and they're looking to maybe purchase a home, and then they go out and do silly things like buy a car, go to Best Buy. They start racking up credit cards, and that is not what to do. We tell them that at the beginning. Don't buy anything. Don't get inquiries on your report, because that is going to just lower your score. And
It's always exciting to want to furnish a home, but wait till after you close.
right, because again, like, as you're saying, cars, now all of a sudden if you have a $500 car payment, that's going to lower your buying power as well, because now your mortgage cannot be as big, because you have, if you're making $50,000 a year and that $500 goes towards your payments, that's, does not help the cause. We're just kind of talking about, what happens when you do find a surprise on your credit, low credit scores. And I imagine you've seen that before in your 10 years of experience out there working with clients. And, let me ask you a question. So somebody comes to you and they have a 550 score. Are you even going to show them homes?
Probably not. The first thing I would do is get them some credit counseling so they can repair that credit report, work on boosting their credit score, and then become more aggressive in searching for their home, because it makes no sense to have your heart set on a home and then find out that you don't qualify for the mortgage, or that you have to pay significantly higher interest rate because your credit score is not there.
I agree with you 100%. And if a realtor is going to take you out without you getting a pre-approval, I hate to say it, you probably need another realtor because they don't know what they're doing and they're going to waste your time and their time. And we've discussed on the show several times, first things first, get a pre-approval from a mortgage broker. So you have a letter and it says how much you can buy and you're going to give that to your realtor. And then when you eventually do find that home, most sellers are going to want that pre-approval anyways. And for those people out there that aren't 100% sure what a pre-approval is, it basically says that you've stated your income to the mortgage broker, that you are qualified to purchase up to X amount. It's not a guarantee, but at least it shows the potential buyer that, hey, the seller, that Mr. Buyer has actually talked to a bank or mortgage broker and the wheels are in motion and the seller is not wasting their time as well.
Exactly, and it's not a guarantee because, as we said, if you buy a large purchase before closing on your home, that could affect you getting the mortgage, but a pre-approval is an excellent start to show that you do have buying power and that you can confidently close.
Exactly. Let's talk about investments. Is buying a home a good investment versus renting? Tell me, what are the advantages of why do I want to own a home when I've got to do all the maintenance now versus when I have an apartment, I can just call somebody and they can come do it?
There you go. Well, the number one thing is you don't have to move. It's your home. So you're not moving. You can set up your roots. You can stay there. You don't need to move until you want to, as opposed to being at the whim of a landlord or a rental building with raising rates, etc., things like that. But the most important thing is buying a home is probably the single largest investment any person can make. And with that, it also helps boost your credit score. That's one thing.
Yes.
But most importantly, it's a stability, it's pride of ownership, it is your personal residence, and it's a way to build equity without even trying. If you look at real estate historically, the amount of wealth that's passed on generation to generation is, you cannot keep up with that no matter what investment you decide to pursue. When you buy a home, that hard asset, as we say, something that's fixed, see, feel, touch, that has historically gone up, kept up with inflation and surpassed it more than any other investment you could possibly make.
And I always say that, somebody's been saving up, they have $50,000 to put down on a house. Oh, well, I don't want to spend the money, but it's different. You're just moving one asset to another.
Exactly.
You're moving it from a bank to your property, and hopefully, now we did have some rough times in 07 and 08, but hopefully we're not going to have that, and your value should still be there. So it's not now taking $50,000 and going on a whirlwind trip. You're never going to see that money again.
Exactly. And another thing to keep in mind is that rental rates are very high. So the same amount of funds you're spending on a rental, you would probably be able to get
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Hello again. You'd probably be able to get a much nicer home for the same price point. Home, condo, co-op, whatever you prefer. But if you take the same amount of money you're spending on a rental and put that to a mortgage, you're going to have more buying power in terms of the quality of the home that you have.
I agree with you 100%. Home ownership is great. I've been in my home since 02 now. I hate moving. I don't like people that would back in the day would call me and say, help me move. It's just not fun. But owning your own home, you can paint it any color you want, do whatever you want, and be happy about it. So I want to talk a little bit about, we're touching base on credit and everything, and I do have some slides here to show you, if I can get them up here real quick, and I will have them here in a second. But credit is a huge factor in everything from buying a home to getting a car to even insurance. Mm-hmm. Your car insurance is depending on your credit rating. And there are let me talk about credit scores a little bit here. Get in here. So there are four, and I apologize for that, four things on the credit report. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about reports. Your personal information, public records, credit history, and credit inquiries. So, personal information, that's going to be basically about yourself, your name, your address, where you live. The public records, if you ever get sued in court and there's a judgment against you, that's going to show up on your report as well. If you don't pay your taxes, we were just reviewing a report today, and child support. People that don't pay child support goes on public records as well. Credit history, which we were talking about, is extremely important because that shows how you pay your bills. You want to pay on time. And as we've discussed before on this show, a lot of the banks and credit cards will have a system where you can set up, link it to your checking account, and as long as you have money in your account, it's going to draw that minimum payment every month. So God forbid you end up in the hospital or something like that, your minimum payment's they're always very small, so whatever, $25, $50, it will draw it and you're not going to get a late payment. And finally, credit inquiries. What's a credit inquiry? Every time you go to a car dealership, to a department store, and they pull your credit, it's going to show up on your report. So the rule of thumb is, as crazy as it sounds, anything more than 4 hurts your file. And credit inquiries are worth anywhere from 2 to 3 points per inquiry. And inquiries stay on your report for 2 years. So just remember that. Another thing that we've discussed before is if you are going to car dealerships, make sure that you tell the guy, I only want my credit pulled one time, because we see that all the time. They'll farm it out to 5, 6 different places, and it shows up, now you got 6, 7 inquiries. You go to 3 different dealerships, now you got 18, 20 inquiries. So be very, very careful about that. So we've got some questions here on our Facebook Live. Well, actually, let's go to a live caller first. We'll go over there. Hello, caller. Okay, caller? Okay, well, we did get disconnected. So let's go to one of our questions that are coming live on Facebook. The question is, how do I get my credit score? Well, there's several ways to do it. Obviously, you can pay for a service and get your credit score that way. Just, go on Google and the 3 major credit bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, all have services where you can get your credit scores and get credit monitoring, which is not a bad thing, because somebody was actually in our office the other day and they were showing me every little thing. This guy's even got it set up on credit monitoring where he gets a charge on his card. It comes through as a text. He has to hit yes to get it approved, which sounds like a little bit of a pain in the neck, but he told me he had a lot of credit fraud. So that was really good. There are some free services out there as well. Some of these banks now on your credit card statements, they give it to you as well. So those are good. Now the problem is, which I'm sure you've seen, that a lot of these free scores and everything, if a guy says it's a 680 or 700, the mortgage broker pulls it and now he's a 650. And they're like, well, why is it? There are so many different scoring models out there. So what your free score versus your one that your mortgage broker will pull can be different. But the free ones are okay, because if they go up or down, that means that your score with your mortgage broker is going to go up or down as well. So it's something to monitor. Again, look for the ones on your credit cards. Look for the free ones online. Google it or give us a call at the Help Center and I can give you a little bit more information regarding that. So let's talk about credit scores. And we actually email this little page out to a lot of people as well. So this is how a credit score is broken up. It's very interesting. So 15% is the length of your credit history. So as I tell people, even if you have clean credit and you've had a credit card for 6 months, you're not going to be a 720. So people that have credit cards for 4, 5, 6 years, that helps. 10% of it is the type of credit. So they're looking for revolving, meaning credit cards, installment loans, a little bit of mix of it. 10% is new credit, and which, again, that can go either way. It can lower your score as well. So that's why we were talking before, and we said, don't apply for credit while you're trying to purchase a home. You got to be really, really careful about that. 35% of the credit score is payment history. Make sure you pay your bills on time. Don't get 50 million credit cards, the department store cards. They offer you the 10, 20% off. Okay, if you're making a huge purchase, several $1,000s, okay, maybe it would pay off, but be very disciplined about it. Pay that bill and then close the card. And finally, 30% is the amount owed. Huge factor. So if you have a $1,000 credit limit, every time you are over $300, that's going to start lowering your score. So 30% is the magic number. I think we do have a call on the phone. Hello, caller.
Hi, I'm in the beginning stages of purchasing a home, a condo preferably. And I was wondering, before I go in to see my real estate agent, once I decide who it will be, are there some things that I should do to prepare, particularly regarding my credit, that I should have ready for the real estate agent?
Absolutely. I mean, what you should do, well, first of all, your real estate agent does not need to see your credit rating. That is between you and your lender. It's more for your purposes unless you voluntarily want to share it and the realtor is a really good friend of yours and can advise you what to do. But my thoughts are usually no. That your credit rating, just as your finances and your job income, those numbers are between you and the lender. They're not between you and your realtor. What is between you and your realtor is the pre-approval. So the first thing I would do is pull your credit rating, make sure that everything that you think is on there, and if there are some surprises, to deal with those ahead of time, or inaccuracies, those can be rectified relatively simply within a few weeks or months if you work with the right person. Once you have your credit report on hand, then go in and see a mortgage broker. You can ask your agent who they recommend as well, because sometimes they do have input as far as from their past clients, who's good, who's not good, who's been able to close a deal timely versus not. So that is an excellent thing to do. Use your realtor as a resource. But the first thing you do is get pre-approved, then go power shopping with your broker. Absolutely. I hope that helps. Any other questions? Can I help you in any other way?
I think we actually we cut them. We lost them. So that's exactly. Have your ducks in a row. I tell people all the time, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste the realtor's time and be disappointed. That's the biggest thing, You don't
want to lose your dream home over a technicality that could have been handled very smoothly a few weeks before.
Exactly. I want to, we keep going back and forth between homes and credit, which go hand in hand, but I want to tell you what America has as far as credit scores, which is really interesting. So this chart which is a FICO score they base it. And remember I told you there's different scoring models out there. So the FICO score, between 300, which I've never seen, and 579, yes, I've seen, in the low 500s, 17% of America is running at that. 580 to 669, 19%. 670 to 739. Again, anything over 700 is really, really good. 22%. But look at this. 740 to 799. 23% of Americans have that, which is really, really good. And then 800 to 850, 19% of Americans out there have those type of credit scores. And again, if you're 740 or above, you're golden. You can get whatever you want. They call it Tier 1 financing and 0% financing. Plus, as far as when they go for a mortgage, jumbo loans. And you want to just take us a little with? I know you're not a mortgage broker, but
yeah, absolutely.
You know what a jumbo loan is, obviously.
Yes, jumbo loans are loans that are above a certain price point, and they're usually used for luxury properties. Although when you're in a large metropolitan city like Chicago, that definition depends on many different factors, but generally a loan over $350,000 will put you into a jumbo loan. So jumbo loans may have a slightly higher interest rate, they may have different terms, but that's what you need if you're going to purchase a property that's usually over $450,000
Right.
as a benchmark. It can vary, but that's generally the rule of thumb. And to be able to qualify for a jumbo loan, of course your credit rating needs to be stellar to be able to get into that bracket.
And that is interesting, because I did have somebody call us once, and California, the jumbos are like $700,000 just because the price point in California is so high.
Right.
So that's why they do it differently. But okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here basically. But any final suggestions to potential home buyers out there?
Well, I would say get local, call your broker, because every neighborhood, every market, there's many different neighborhoods in Chicago, which is what makes it the wonderful city that it is. So get local, call your broker, because the market can differ in every single area in terms of market time, supply, demand, price point, many things are a factor, so I would say that.
Excellent. And if anybody who was not able to get through tonight have any questions for myself regarding credit or Christine regarding real estate, please give us a call at the number right behind me at 773-862-4000. That's our help center. Call now, leave a voicemail. last week after the show, we had several calls on the voicemail when I got in the next day, and mainly credit, about scores and stuff like that. So again, Christine, I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to see you, and
Thank
always a
you.
pleasure to work with you.
Thank you. And next week, we will be back on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Thank you very much for watching.